Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this Holabird investment opportunity. And my name is Vinki Loomba. I'm here with my partner, Himal Vidyani. Himal, you wanted to introduce yourself first?
Absolutely. Thank you. And welcome, folks, whoever is listening. Very excited to share this opportunity. But before that, talk a little bit about myself. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina with my wife and twin 6-year-olds. And I'm the CEO of a real estate investment company here based out of Charlotte called Exponential Equity. We are into multiple streams, multiple asset classes, including multifamily, self-storage, ground up construction, existing assets, land, and ever expanding into vertical management with property management, construction management, all of that on the horizon. We have a little over 100 million in assets under management and development, mostly around the North Carolina and South Carolina market. This is the market that we know, and we are not an expert, but we know our backyard pretty well, and the craziness with the migratory patterns, the jobs, etc. that's happening here. We are excited to continue to build and buy and really add value to all our investors in this market. So this is one of those opportunities that I'm looking forward to discuss.
Thank you, Himal. And most of you already know me. My name is Vinki Loomba. I'm an entrepreneur and a strategist with a background in commercial real estate, information technology, and academia. I help people with their financial goals. And obviously, I'm partnered with Himal Vidyani, and this is our second project together. We're just wrapping up our self-storage project that was a ground up as well. So now moving on to this another ground out townhomes. So before we get started and dig deeper in the townhome investment, I would like to go through a small little disclaimer. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see it?
We can.
All right, so let's see. So small little disclaimer, this webinar is strictly for educational, I would say knowledge sharing purposes, and should not be considered as a legal, accounting, or investment advice. This webinar does not represent any offer to sell or a solicitation of an offer to purchase an investment or security. The strategies mentioned in the presentation may not be applicable for all. Now, information presented is believed to be accurate and reliable. We make no representations or warranties, expressed or implied, as to the accuracy of such information, and we explicitly disclaim any or all liability that may be based on such information and errors or omissions thereof. Please consult with your attorneys, financial advisors, CPAs for any legal matters. And some housekeeping items. If you have any questions as we go through the presentation, please put it in the Q&A box. And if you put in the chat, sometimes it gets lost because everybody's talking with each other. And if we didn't get to answer any question, please reach out to me at the end at vinki@loombainvest.com. So this is our opportunity, Holabird Creek townhomes. And a disclaimer we already went through. Again, there is a financial or business disclaimer. Like, we're not trying to solicit to sell anything here. If you have any questions, any legal matter questions or investment questions, please reach out to your CPAs. In a little bit executive summary, these are the 29 townhomes, 3 to 3.5 bathrooms. Maybe Himal, you wanted to tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start and I'll kind of give a highlight when we go into the submarket and the market. But I would start with everyone should be encouraged to look at Charlotte market, but just going to Zillow.com and seeing how many houses are listed in the city of Charlotte, right? And you'll find that it's less than 1,000. It's the average house stays only for a couple of hours, just like all the big hot market. Charlotte's experiencing the same migratory boom. And so, in a couple of hours with multiple bids, even with land lots, there's just multiple bids going on. And the situation is not about to slow down. And the reason is the county is just backlogged in terms of how much rezoning they can do, where they want to develop their economic plans, where they want to, allow for building, et cetera, et cetera. So we could literally build a shed here with four walls, and we would rent it out for 750, 850, right? So that's the insanity in terms of supply versus demand that we're facing here. So this product is specifically for some of the generational folks who are moving here from out of state that have, they're typically the 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds, maybe a young child or two, but mostly young professionals that are moving in for those banking and insurance and other jobs at the tech sector that Charlotte is bringing, and they want to stay very close to downtown. So this product is very, 5 miles from what we call lovingly uptown Charlotte. It's a little bit up in terms of the hill, but that's 5 minutes from downtown Charlotte. So they want access to all the facilities to eat, and restaurants and pubs and all the hangout places. And they want something that they can really stay in from a multiple floors perspective. They want something that's spacious for two people working on different floors and taking their meetings. And they want something where there's still space to invite guests and party it up a little bit. And that's where the rooftop terrace type of product. So this is a very popular product. I'm sure you might have seen it in in the West Coast, on the East Coast, in other cities as well. It's kind of a boxy pattern, and we'll show the renderings. And that's what we're trying to build. It's very catered very specifically to that end. And we have a fully entitled piece of land with permitting already in process, and we're building those 29 luxury townhomes across 8 buildings, 3 to 4 bedrooms, two types of models, and a 3.5 bedroom type of product that's 4 floors with 2 car garages. If you want to move to the next slide, I'll talk about the timeline and the returns in a little bit as well. Oh, there you go. Yep, so I mentioned the property highlights. It's going to be catered to a very specific type of product for a very specific type of set of professionals that are moving in. It's 2,300 square foot on an average with 2 car garages, two models will go into that, 8 buildings on a 3-acre lot, and in a very, very nice, quiet location that's springing up in terms of growth and development near Charlotte. All right, so the overall project cost is estimated to be 12 million. We are raising about 3.6 in equity, so that's 30% of that. The loan is about 8.4, and the project sale amount at a very conservative, and I'll explain what levers we've pulled there. It's close to 16 million. We're looking at the 550,000. Now the average market there around this area, the townhomes are selling at around 615 to 625 right now. So there's a lot of gap in what we have assumed versus what the market can bring. But we like to be overly conservative in those expectations. And the net profit kind of comes into 3.152, which is for this tranche of investors, it's an 18-month period and an 18 to 24% return. Again, very conservatively, we're looking to knock it out of the park with a 30+% return, realistically annualized. But conservatively, people should expect between an 18 to 24% return. All right, if you want to move to the next slide.
Yeah, before, you wanted to talk a little bit here about the raise, how we are doing the raise in 2 phases, or you want?
Yeah, absolutely. I can touch on that. So what we wanted to do, I think you'll see that in a lot of larger construction projects nowadays, is the process when you buy an entitled land versus you go through the permitting process of putting together construction drawings, going with the city to get the drawings reviewed and getting city's comments back and forth on what materials to use and what height to use, et cetera, et cetera. it takes a lot of time, sometimes several months. In this case, the city of Charlotte takes 8 to 9 months typically to get through that. So what we wanted to do was, raise funds in two tranches and cater to two different types of investors. The first tranche was about 1.4 million raised. That was to buy the land, fully entitled, and then keep the additional funds aside just a little bit for civil costs and engineering and architectural costs, so that we can do all the things that the city requires to move us to the next phase. And now in the tranche 2 is when actually by the time the permitting is done, we'll procure the debt and the rest of the equity to go along with the debt and actually start the construction of both horizontal, which is grading the land, putting in the utilities, and then the vertical construction of each of the houses or the townhomes itself. So that's why, we wanted to raise money in two tranches, so the money is not sitting for anyone in the bank without earning them any return for 8-9 months. And we've created a way where people who've invested with us for the longer period of time, which is the first phase, would get a slightly higher return because their money is in play for 6 to 8 months or 9 months more than this current tranche. And the current tranche obviously would have a higher velocity because this is a build to sell product. So as soon as we start constructing it, we want to start lining up. We already have hired the top broker in the town of Charlotte. She is going to be the next president of the Realtor Association here to start the marketing and line up things so we pre-lease or pre-sell them even before they're fully constructed. And so the money and the velocity of the funds invested in this tranche would be faster, with still, on an average 20+% return to be expected, which is phenomenal in just a year and a half or less. So that's kind of the two tranches, and we can talk about that in the Q&A if need be. You want to go to the next slide?
All right, let's go to the timeline now.
All right. So yeah, we bought the land. You see that in the Q3, Q4. We bought the land fully entitled in Q3, so September of 2021. We are currently going through the permitting process. We anticipate that to finish by end of March or end of April. Horizontal construction would be only for a month, which is the grading of the site. It's a very flat piece of land, only 3 acres. So it's a simple process from a horizontal perspective. And then the vertical construction would begin in that Q2, May, June timeframe, with anticipated, 14 months to finish that. And so by the start of the new year in 2023, we'll be looking to get all the pre-selling things lined up from a marketing standpoint, pre-qualifying the buyers, the lenders in place, all of that, 3D models, virtual reality glasses. We're very excited to bring technology together with this so people can visualize even before the house is constructed, what the interiors could look like, and they get excited about this product and the submarket. And then by Q3 2023, we're looking to exit all 29 townhomes and with a complete sell of the products.
Okay, so I do have one question over here, Himal. So how the timeline is going to go when you start selling the townhomes? Are we going to be doing some pre-selling, right? Once we start the construction in Q3 of 2023 or Q2, at that time, we're going to start pre-selling, or some are going to be sold till the last one is done. How that's going to roll, if you can shed some light on that too.
Yeah, so typically in the pre-selling process, you go through the pre-qualification where the buyer's lined up. They've already toured the house or the townhome while it's being constructed. And the day it's finished, ideally you do a walkthrough with them with any minor touches that need to be done, and then they close the loan. So they've already lined up the lending side, the brokerage side, all of that with our help. And the only thing that stage which is pending, which is the construction to be finished.
Great. Okay.
All right.
Talk about the team.
Yeah, I see great people there. So team Exponential Equity, we are a team of 10 people. And the three folks mentioned here, obviously I talked about me. Yomesh, my partner and CEO of the firm, handles all the operational aspects of the organization, especially with the existing assets we manage, whether it's vendor relationships, property management relationships, and as we expand into vertical integration, the property management side would kind of fit within his umbrella as well. Brandon Maxwell, he was a residential developer here himself, had a small residential development firm in the Charlotte area. He sold that a few months back and joined us as the director of land and residential ground up construction and self-storage construction. So he brings about tremendous expertise in everything that we're doing in the construction business, and really accelerated our growth in that journey of new construction.
And
then, yeah, and then Vinki obviously is, you all know Vinki, so I won't go into that. Cliff Sang is a great broker, is helping us with some of our investor relations aspect in the California West Coast side as well.
All right, so let's talk about our builders a little bit here.
Yeah, Metrolina Builders, Matt Williams and team, they are third generation builders based out of Charlotte. They have built anything and everything that is in the Charlotte area. Tremendous partnership with us, not only on this project, on multiple projects that we're doing across multiple asset classes. And specifically for this project, we selected them because they have a very similar type of high-end product about 10 minutes away from where we are building things. So they know a thing or two about what's available, what are the city's quirks and nuances, and what kind of product they like to beautify the town of Charlotte. And they've been a great partner so far.
Right.
And similarly, Studio Fusion, again, a very local architectural firm. They marry a lot of technology in terms of design with the nuances and intricacies of building something like this. And they've done, small projects from 5 million to large projects up to 80 million, and they have been tremendously successful in the Charlotte market.
Right. And the engineers.
Yeah, and McKinnon Creed civil engineers, again, exclusively used by us in all our projects, including land rezoning. Again, tremendous partner. So we have a fantastic team, all in all, bringing several decades of construction experience and the submarket experience in Charlotte, knowing that we all live in Charlotte. We know the streets, we know where the growth areas are, we know where the economic development plan is going. So when we start putting bets on a street or an area, it's very reasonably and a very safe bet from our vantage point.
And they are working on multiple projects with us, right? On the self-storage too, they're with us. Yep. So why we pick this market? You want to talk about that too? I know you touched it a little bit earlier.
Yeah. I mean, Charlotte has seen the growth, over the last 2 decades, essentially. 250 people move here every day. And so that, they all need houses or places to live or rent. If you look at, I think 32 of the global 2000 are headquartered here. So everyone from Electrolux to people who make the bubble wrap, Sealy, their global headquarters is here. The banks, Bank of America, Wells Fargo's Eastern headquarters, Ally, BB&T, many insurance companies. It's just a powerhouse of young professionals and people with families kind of moving in. And just like, a lot of the Carolinas, if you draw, the other thing is, it's a fantastic airport. It has, great access to Europe, to Caribbean, direct flights, one of the busier airports in the United States. It's at the cusp of North and South Carolina, the city of Charlotte. So the growth has spread across at the bottom in South Carolina and up top. And that has created an MSA of close to 3 million people, which has just been fantastic to see.
And you already talked about the key demographics, and then the entertainment is there, transportation.
Yeah, everything that you can imagine from a city that's poised to be a great metropolitan area. Carolina Panthers, basketball teams there, light rails come up. It's just ever expanding. Transportation from a bike perspective, walking trails. The city has been very strategic to make it, keep the greenery of the Carolinas that it's very known for, and while recognizing the expansion that it requires to get all these folks who are moving in left, right, and center from New York and California and all the places to enjoy the four seasons, and enjoy having job opportunities, enjoy the cost of living, which is still reasonable with even with all the inflation. So our bet on Charlotte for the next 5 to 10 years would be still tremendous growth. And this is first of many, 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 many projects that we'll be bringing to you and your investors.
Yeah, you said it very well. Charlotte is growing big time. Let's talk about the employers too, how the employment is growing. There are major employers there.
Yeah, so Wells Fargo, when it bought Wachovia Bank, it's one of the biggest centers. They have a building called, or not a building, but a facility. I think after the Pentagon, is one of the larger facilities with its own zip code. That's 27,000 people there employed. Bank of America, I mentioned. A lot on the healthcare sector side, a lot on the food side. The universities are big there as well. The University of North Carolina, Charlotte. There's a nursing school. Davidson College. There are multiple educational aspects. So again, something that you can pinpoint that led to growth trajectory of the Dallases of the world or the Austins of the world. You're seeing that, but even still has reasonable cap rates, reasonable construction costs, and so I'm surprised more people are not moving here, to be honest.
What does the submarket look like for this area?
Yeah, so West Boulevard, the history of Charlotte's economic development around the downtown Charlotte area is, they take one area and say, for the next 2 years, we're just going to focus there. And as soon as developers hear about that, which like us, we start buying land there. And it takes 12 months to rezone the land and sit on it. And that's when, a year from then is when you'll start seeing all those kinds of development. So case in point, there's a submarket called South End, which 5 years back was, not the best area in the world. But now a townhome there could be easily a $1.2 million townhome, which is ridiculous for a Charlotte market. And lots of high-end bars and restaurants and all of that has happened. So this area of West Boulevard, it has a natural strategic location because it is, a few minutes away from the airport, like you can see on the west side here, Charlotte Douglas Airport. And then if you take a straight road, it leads in 5 miles, you'll be in downtown Charlotte. So this is the next growth area from an economic development standpoint. And we've started seeing, along with our purchase, just, left, right, and center development deals. If you go to the GIS or look at rezoning requests from the city, you'll see that a lot of development deals and requests for rezoning have just happened around us. And so in a year's time, this market and this area is just going to be completely different from where it is right now. And that's what we are excited about.
So can you talk about the school district too? Is it like a good school district in the area?
Yeah, so most of the young professionals, they again, either are not at that stage where they have kids going to public schools or going to schools because they might not have kids yet or have babies. And then there are very good private schools here that when you're building a product that's going to sell for 600,000, most of those kids go to private school. And there's one called Providence Day, which is very exciting, and number 2 in the Mecklenburg County in Charlotte as the best private school in that area. So that's where we believe that most would go. When it comes to the city of Charlotte, the school district is the whole county itself, so pretty much the whole Charlotte. So you can get a lottery to go into a school, 12 miles from you or 20 miles from you. So it's hard to judge or give a ranking, because when you draw a circle that wide, your school district's going to have best schools and not so good schools, and going to average out into, okay schools. So that's where the Mecklenburg County kind of school district is not that great on an average, but that's even if you take an area with $5 million houses in Charlotte, in the city of Charlotte, and pinpoint the school district, will be the same.
Oh, great. And the Three Sisters Market close by too?
Yeah, so again, we want to see spurts of growth when we try and build something, right? We're betting on this whole green area that you're seeing across us here in this picture. It's all going to be, now at the bottom here, it's all going to be condos and apartments, 240 of them coming here. So Three Sisters Market, again, is a community-owned food co-op. So it's like a mercado type of place where young professionals would hang out, grab some drinks, different food trucks type, not a food truck, but small stalls, and restaurants would come in and, put their places in there, and it just is a hangout place, which has been very hit with young professionals in the other submarkets like South End that I mentioned, and that has allowed that to grow. And that's the first sign of growth from our standpoint, that the city is betting on it. Large commercial enterprises who are going to entertain these young professionals are coming in. And this one has completed its phase one, and it's going into phase two in anticipation of all these folks kind of moving in here in the next year or so.
So this South View Recreation Center, is it already there, or is it gonna?
Yeah, that's a free, yeah. So that one, if you look at Holabird Townhomes, it's such a beautiful location, because you're going there, it's into this road, off this West Boulevard, the main road, into our Holabird Creek Lane road, and it's a dead end there. And so after our townhomes, there's nothing that's going to come. Opposite us is a church on this side, on the front side of West Boulevard. And then behind is this free center that's paid by the Mecklenburg County itself, where you have running tracks, where you have baseball fields, basketball fields, gym facility, etc. So you can literally walk from the townhomes and go for a jog on those running tracks, which again, what we like for the young professionals. And the fact that it's such a coveted piece of street where nothing else would come, the church is not going away, and nothing else can be built there. So that's where the magic would happen with our pricing.
Great. Well, that's where we're talking about the South View Recreation Center that I asked you.
Yep. I think we can keep moving. This employment, I'm sure most people have heard about Charlotte. I mentioned some of this, so kind of go into the next discussion in the interest of time. Yep, kind of talked about location. Yeah,
you want to talk about the site plan a little bit, right?
Yes. So the site plan, you can see the renderings. It's going to be a product that's contemporary, two-car garage, and we wanted to have two site plans. Within the site plan, two floor plans. So you'll see the blue or the gray and the greenish type of product, which are the two models. One is a little smaller, one is a little bigger, and I'll explain what that looks like in the next slide. So yeah, this is the site plan for the larger product, which is 2,436 square feet. So if you look at level one, you kind of come in from your garage, you have an entryway, and there's like a fourth bedroom or a bonus room with a bath over there, which is exactly the same on the other product as well. The second level, again, exactly the same as the other model, where it's your living space, your entertainment space, your dining space with a kitchen. The third level is where the product differs, the two models. In this one, the larger capacity allows us to have 3 bedrooms within that third floor, and 2 baths. And then the fourth floor, again, is the same in both the products. You'll have an attic where you can store stuff, and your HVAC, etc., and then your terrace, which is your rooftop terrace, which would have the appeal of entertainment. So this is kind of the end unit and the larger units represented there. In the smaller unit, it's still, when I say small, it's just a couple of 100 square feet smaller than the other one, 2,236 square feet in general. The first, and this one is 2,436, so a couple of 100 square feet only. Yeah, and this one, the first, second, and fourth floor are the same. Only on the third floor, that's where we instead of having 2 bedrooms, we can only 3 bedrooms, we can only have 2 bedrooms. So this would be a three bedroom townhome versus the other one would be a 4th bedroom townhome with an option to make it bonus, depending on that young professionals, couples needs. Everything else is exactly the same.
So this is like a loft.
That's your staircase.
Oh, the staircase. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is the attic and the exterior place again. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so let's move on to the financials or sales counts before we move to financials.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, if you look at the horizon around this West Boulevard and take a couple of miles radius, on an average, this is last year's data, and prices are bound to increase, 10% at the very least in this year. We've seen, on an average, it's been $300 a square foot. And our average price for such a product would be $617,000 with the finishes and everything being equal. And we are pricing it pretty much $62 a square foot lower than that average projection. And the reason is we want to be extra conservative, given that it's a construction cost. We can easily say this is $300 a square foot and making it an average. And the returns for investors would be, 1.5 to 2 times their money in a year and a half's time, which would be our goal to achieve that and even knock it out of the park if we can get 25, 650 as we start selling trenches and get the demand. But we wanted to keep a very conservative underwriting as a sales point. And you all can look into that as well.
We wanted to.
No,
this is good. The slides are Disney at the 2-year cash flow now.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about that. So initially, we year one, starting from September 2021, we bought the land at $950,000, which was fully entitled. Estimated spending some money to close. And then the construction horizontal, which is the grading of the land, we are estimating at about $750,000 with a little bit of contingency. The construction cost vertical, which is, which will start in the first year, but will run into the second year as we've already, gone through 8 months. So there's not much to spend there in the first year. So it's kind of split up. That's looking at about $8 million. And we've kept, given the material prices going up and down, we've kept 15% in contingency in terms of the construction costs in our estimates. And what that allows us to, from a lending standpoint, otherwise, to be very, very conservative on what we do here. Once we get to the permitting process completed, and once we get to a point where the general contractor, Metrolina Builders, is getting all the bids on materials, etc., they would give us what is known as a GMP, your general maximum price contract. And that's the contract that will go to the lender from a debt perspective as well. And that contract says, hey, we will not exceed in any time for this construction beyond 8 million or 8.5 million or whatever the number is. That's the number that they work on. And, barring any big, weather or other events that are not in their control, they are obligated by contract to be within that number. So our numbers would firm up as we kind of work through these bids in the permitting process, etc. But in the meantime, we've kept it a conservative estimate. The soft costs, again, as we go through these construction documents, the permitting process, etc., we'll have to spend money for the architectural engineering, permitting. We'll have to pay taxes. Our development fee is 5%. That's for paying for Brandon and his team to, work with the GCs, go on the site, be part of the construction project, which is an intense process for a year and a half. And then the closing costs. And the last thing is the carry cost, which is, when we get the interest-only loan for a year and a half as a construction loan, or 2 years, we still have to pay the interest, and there's carrying cost to pay that interest. That kind of sums up to that $12 million that we have estimated to spend over the next 2 years. And the total sales being the 15.9 million, and with a selling cost of 3%, which is at 800,000. And then, that leaves the net proceeds from sales as 15.152 million.
Right. So the next slide.
Yeah, so what does that all mean, right? So I would just focus on the acquisition summary. Basically, our estimate is we'll be building all in, including the land, including the horizontal construction, contingency, all of that combined. We are building this townhome on an average at 180 a square foot, which is at about 414,000 or less than that. And then we're selling it at 239 a square foot. Obviously with the aim of selling it at 300 plus a square foot, but at a minimum, that's what we want to do. So there's a $60 per square foot price difference, which is the profit that we are all aiming towards.
And can you give us a little breakdown on the horizontal construction too? Like what is involved in that?
So yeah, that's where you grade the site, which is if there are any trees, you have to cut some of the trees, you have to flatten the land from a dirt perspective. If there are any hilly areas from a topography perspective, you have to flatten the land, you have to put in the utilities, so you have to connect your main water and sewer lines, you have to build the roads and streets that are going in, and put in the power lines, or anything underground that you're putting in, and then put in the foundational pads where the townhomes would come. So four or five is a cluster, or 3 is a cluster. So you put in the foundation. So all then it's left is the vertical part, which is the actual building of the house or townhome itself. Everything else comes in the horizontals.
Right.
Oh, before I move on, the debt right now is assumed to be 70% LTC at a 4.5% interest with a 3 years IO, right? So we're pretty likely to get this another lever we've been very conservative on. We're pretty likely to get above 70%, probably 75 to 80% in terms of the debt itself. Nowadays, the bet in Charlotte is pretty high, so a lot of private equity firms want to provide very flexible terms on this, knowing how fast these products would sell. So that would allow us to bring our weighted average cost of capital down, and bring profits for all our investors, and for us, higher profits for all of us. So that's something that we're looking into as well.
Right. So let's talk about the fees as well.
Yep. So I mentioned, the development fee would be the 5%, which is throughout the journey. That's for the development team, especially Brandon and his team, to ensure this is not, unlike an asset management or existing acquisition, which you'll have weekly calls, etc. This is a much more nuanced process. There's a lot of decision making that is happening on a daily basis when you go into construction and you find rock or something's going on. And so there's a lot of involvement that you almost need like a site supervisor from our end. And that's the fee that's paid for them during the construction phase. And then one-time fee paid to sponsors at the disposition of the property. So 2% as we start selling each of these from a disposition fee perspective. There are no acquisitions fee, there are no upfront fees from us. Our outcomes are pretty much aligned from a profit standpoint with the outcome of the investors. So yeah, I'd mentioned the two classes of investors. The class A, which the tranche 1 was to buy the land and pay for the soft costs. That was completed in September 2021. The only difference between class A and class B is that instead of a straight 70-30 split, which the Class A folks would enjoy for pro rata for just their share of money that's been put in as investment. The Class B investors, if you go to the next slide, would have a 60-40 split, and that's because they would have the velocity of their money invested is faster, hopefully year plus rather than 1.5 years. Given that we want to finish this product by May, June next year, by the time we're done with the raise in March of this year, the money would be in play for 15 to 16 months. So that's pretty fast, and we want to provide on an average 20+% returns. And if we can achieve that 300,000 or 600,000 in terms of the sales price or above, then obviously this would be just a phenomenal deal for any investor to park their money.
Yeah, and this is because the Class B investors only have the timeline 1.5 year, right, maximum.
Yep.
Here it was 2 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, it could have been a little bit longer too, because when we initially started the project. Okay.
Yep.
So what are the next steps?
Please reach out to Vinki with Investor Relations at Loomba Invest. We have a pretty seamless process in terms of looking at the PPM, all the investment pitch deck itself, all the legal documents. You can call Vinki or I for any questions that you have specific to this. We encourage you to do research on Charlotte if you have not invested in Charlotte before. In the submarket, the product itself, look at the demand, and you'll know why we are super excited about this opportunity, and we cannot build this fast enough.
That's true. Yeah, thank you, Hemal. I think that was a really good walkthrough. So you can go to the portal and you can go to the offerings, and there you will see this one, Holabird. Click on the Invest Now button and go through the documentation. And I think this is pretty much it for now. Any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you so much for joining with us. Hemal, any last words?
No, thank you. Again, appreciate everybody's investment of time and listening to this project, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And otherwise, a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. See you next time on some other channel. Bye.
Bye.